or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
I did hear that they were coming through necessary media.
Because it's necessary. Necessary media. Media because it's necessary.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am back again, your host and friend Michael DeOliveira, ushering in the necessary era every Wednesday here live on Comcast Channel 95. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe here. Put it right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's show, I want to see if I can get some audience participation, okay? I put out the header on Facebook and on Twitter earlier today. There's a couple topics going on nationally that I think would be all right for a discussion, since locally, I mean, there's things always going on, but there was nothing really crazy that stuck out to me hot topic-wise, and all I've been hearing all week is just this national level stuff. So I figured I'd try to get into that a little bit today. If you want to call in, please feel free to call in. The number's 508-730-3222. Again, it's 508-730-3222. 508-730-3222. So call in. One of the topics I want to get into, one of the big ones that was a hot topic this week, is this whole situation going on with NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Now, Colin Kaepernick had an issue going on where with the National Anthem. And this is something that, before this ever happened with Colin Kaepernick, I had discussions with friends of mine and debates with colleagues, if you want to call it that, associates, whatever terminology fits you. But I've had conversations with people before this ever happened about things similar to what happened with him, and more specifically, things along the lines of pledges of allegiance, standing to salute flags, things of this nature. I open this discussion to everybody out there, so I'm just going to start talking. I'll give my view on this, and I'll see how this goes from there, and I'll get into some other stuff as the show goes on as well. But what I want to lead off with this is my personal view. When you put, and if you're a religious person, this should really stick out to you. I'm not saying this from a religious angle, but this should really stick out to you if you're somewhat of a religious nature or a spiritual nature, really. When you start to worship what they would call a false idol of any kind, that's terminology. But really, what happens is when you start to put your focus on something material like that. So literally, we're talking about a flag. People start to invest their emotions into this. That's where a lot of this conversation goes. It's an emotional-based conversation. Not too much of it is based in any kind of logic. It's people's emotions that are driving the conversation. So what happens is you have these two opposing sides where one feels that there's certain things unjust about the way the current society is going. When they speak the national level of our government, these people have the connotation of something unjust. I'll tell you right now, me myself, I'm going to be adhering more to that side of this conversation. What happens now is you have on the other side, you have people who either have great, and this doesn't mean this side doesn't have it, but you have people on this corner of the conversation who have a great deal of respect for the actual national level of our country, whether it be because their family is served, they're serving, they have children serving. So a lot of it usually tends to go to the military aspect of it all. And the people who put their hearts and minds and their emotions into this conversation, they usually put their opinions based on those emotions. So it constantly becomes, it's like you're disrespecting them and their family and their heritage and their history and everything that's supposed to be good about the country when you do some kind of a protest in any way to the flag. Now, we've had similar situations that go on with this when it comes to flag burning, just disrespect to the flag. I don't support that myself, so I'm going to make that clear as well. I don't support actually taking it upon yourself to desecrate the flag, because in my opinion, that's a waste of time. It's disrespectful on purpose almost, because you're doing something. I get proving a point, but to me more so, it's just a waste of time, because again, that item holds nothing except the emotions that are put into it. So I just don't get it. But this is a conversation that's going on repeatedly, so this isn't the first time. But Colin Kaepernick, quarterback again from the NFL, he decides to make a stand by sitting down. So he makes the stand by sitting down, and he did not stand for the national anthem, and everybody's in an uproar. I mean, the whole place is going crazy about this. Like I said, nationally, you can't avoid it. I didn't even want to talk. You can't avoid it. His point that he's focused on specifically is the injustices having to do with certain populations of the minority population in the country, and really focusing more on with him specifically, at least, with a lot of the injustices. And again, a lot of the conversation was more focused on the big thing going on nationally as far as with the police go, and the whole Black Lives Matter movement and all that sort of conversation. So he started to adhere to that, or that's what the part he's bringing it up on. Now, he has all the right in the world to do that. His focus on him feeling that the nation's been unjust, it hasn't fit up to this mold, that the American dream that everybody sold, it hasn't fit up to the mold that we've been sold, okay? You can quote that one, put that on a t-shirt, do what you want with it. Mugs, coffee mugs, we'll have those out soon. But so if some people feel like it doesn't uphold to the dream we've been sold, then how can you stand in praise of this thought, this emotion, if it doesn't jive with you? It's not, things aren't right. That, though, I want to key in on this again, and I think there's plenty of people out there who understand, but I think there's plenty of people on both extremes of this conversation. That in and of itself does not mean you do not, quote-unquote, have respect for the veterans. You do not, quote-unquote, have respect for our national history, what we've done, how we help actual other parts of the world. That doesn't mean you're against the cons, the pros. I'm getting hand signals from, anyway, my team JK, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to my 2 interns, Team JK. They've been doing a fabulous job as of late, so kudos. So again, I just want to make it clear, I don't understand how the conversation goes. I understand, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't be about actual veterans, how your respect feels for that. This is a specific issue with the flag. Now, most certainly, I believe, again, I'm getting, no, okay, I don't know what's going on. I got interns, okay, so I'm getting calls. Listen, if you're calling in, feel free. I don't know if it's someone who's trying to call in and they're just having the phone issues, because I keep hearing seeing my interns doing this back and forth, like it's hardcore. They're not jogging, they're answering phones. So if one of you guys are calling out there, feel free to call back in. Again, the number's 508-730-3222. If you want to chime in on anything else, by the way, feel free. Let's open the discussion. It's not centered just on this. If you got something locally you want to get into, I myself didn't feel there's anything really pressing this week on that. One of the things I saw is it just really has to concern, if you're someone out there who's concerned with yard waste, that's one of the big things still, is what's going on with the yard waste and the trash. City Councilor Pam LeBeau, I seen put a post out that she's got on top of this, and she figured out that the same trash trucks that we have every day that picks up our trash are then dumping the trash, and then they're coming back for the waste. This is what she put out there. Don't hold me to that. I want to ask her. But that's the information out there, if you're wondering. That's about all I have locally right now. We'll wait till next week and the next week as the city council meetings start rolling in again. So again, for nationally, what we're talking about, or what I'm talking about right now, is this idea that you can use the American flag as a target for your protest. And now, let's really analyze here what's happening, though. So everybody who has an emotional investment in this flag are really getting upset. Is the flag getting upset? No. Do you think the flag feels disrespected in itself? No. I would even go so far as to say the amount of respect we're supposed to be, or some critics would say, that you're supposed to put in the veterans, that who have served, lost their lives for this. I'd be willing to bet a lot of them, if they had full knowledge of what's going on right now, like full knowledge of the spectrum of what we do with our military, how our military's handling things overseas. And again, good and bad, everybody, but the generality, the grand picture. I don't think a lot of them would be on board with this. There's a lot of, over history it'll show you, a lot of the veterans return, and I don't know the percentages, but I know a lot of veterans that I know personally, or I've talked to personally, when they come back, their eyes are awake to a lot of things that they weren't before, and they're not too happy themselves. Okay, one of the biggest things you get out there. So for everybody about this who has an opinion on this, that you can't critique the government and the flag, if you do that, and you talk to some of these vets who've come back, who have served, who have lost limbs, or who have lost lives of friends, across with them. You talk to some of these people, they're going to have a different outlook that you might have thought. Not all of them, but a good percentage. Again, people I know personally, they come back from such a thing, eyes wide awake. You start to realize, the real manipulations of what's going on, where the money's leading, where the profits are coming from. And it's a little different than you're going overseas to protect protect our freedoms when really you're protecting certain interests. So, all right, we got a caller. Hey, caller, you there? Caller, you there?
Here.
All right, hey, I can hear you. You there, Ben?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so hey, you got a question or comment?
Yeah, kind of on the Colin Kaepernick incident here. I mean, he's definitely within his rights. You know, his First Amendment rights of sitting down during the national anthem, and you know, that's I'm all for exercising your rights, but I just think there's certain ways that you should go about it. I just kind of find it ironic that you know, this is the same guy last year that got fined $11,000 by the NFL for using the N-word as a racial slur. So he just seems very hypocritical in his stance, and I just find it really weird that all of a sudden he decides he kind of wants to stand up, or actually I should say sit down for a necessary cause. You know, he should kind of, you know, be out with organizations, you know, really trying to make a difference, and he hasn't. You know, it's been noted that he hasn't, you know, spent any money towards foundations, hasn't put any, you know, work in with any foundations and spent any of his time, and so I just kind of find it to be almost like a.
So, Colin,
almost.
would you do you think it goes more along with the? Because I know there's the theory out there about how he's pretty much on the end of his rope, NFL-wise.
Yeah.
Do you think that's playing a factor into this?
Well, I mean, I just think I think it's not just a coincidence. I think, you know, he's about ready to get cut by a team. He's going to lose money by getting cut by a team. And then, you know, I guess he decides this was a good time to do this. Like I said, I feel like if this was something he really felt strongly about it, he would have done this a lot earlier instead of now.
Yeah, but what about the timing and the fact that, you know, right now there is a lot of national level controversy when it comes to, you know, everything like with the Black Lives Matter movement, and, you know, we're now, it seems like every week, and it's thanks to social media and, you know, being able to record video everywhere you go, you know, for good and for bad, we're seeing, you know, video week after week, almost day after day, of some new situation that happens with you know, the police as in a certain area, whatever was videotaped, they'll highlight a negative or a wrongdoing or an injustice, and then that gets blown all over the nation. You know, it's a targeted video, but it's blown all over the nation. Would you think, though, I know you're saying it's funny, the timing on it, but do you think that honestly plays a part of it, or you just really, you're not buying it at all?
No, I mean, I think that plays a part in it. I mean, the dude is a superstar, you know. He is a big name, you know, in this sport, and he's definitely going to be looked at and definitely criticized a lot more than, you know, maybe someone who's, you know, who people don't know that play in the NFL, you know, maybe say a second or third string. So definitely he's already going to be more in the limelight. But like I said, I just feel like there's other ways he could go about it, and I feel like the way he went about it was disrespectful. And like I said, you know, if you want to make a change, you know, go get with some of these organizations that are trying to make a change. You know, go put in work with them. You know, go donate money. I mean, the guy makes $100 million. He hasn't spent a single cent on the cause that he supposedly says he's passionate about.
Now, caller, I want to dig in on something real quick, though. When you say it's disrespectful, can you explain? And I'm not saying it's not. I just want to try to hear where you're coming from, because I wanted to try to pick apart the angle on this. So, in what way do you find this disrespectful that he's sitting down during the national anthem? Like, how could you describe what is the disrespect in it?
Well, let's see here. Just a little backstory, really quick. I was born into a military family. Mother and father, both retired military. God bless them. But I was always taught and always raised that the reason we stand for the flag is to remember all the people that have fought, all the people that have died to get the country to where it's at today. You know what? I was never taught, oh, you know, we're standing for, you know, I guess, you know, government policies or anything like that. Like, the flag is beyond anything political in my eyes. The flag is more so based upon, you know, this is a country that has given people many opportunities to be able to live out their dreams, like Colin Kaepernick. And I just think, you know, he's being disrespectful, and he's being very unappreciative of the fact of, you know, the opportunities he's been given. So I guess that's kind of more so when it comes to that. Like I said, I mean, it's beyond politics. It's just, you know, this is just how I feel. You know, this is, like I said, it's just remembering everybody that has contributed to make this country great.
Well, I understand, but see, the word that you used a lot is about how the feel, and then you did mention the military backing. Now, when I say the disrespect, are you connecting one and the same? In other words, when he's bringing up, when he's sitting down, I should say, when he's sitting down for what he says has to do with his views, having to do with the way that the government or the country is as a nation is working, the way the government might be working for a certain type of people, where he just thinks it's not all around everything it was supposed to be or everything it's supposed to represent. You're taking that message, that clear message that he's made, and that's also connecting with you, though. You're taking it as also a slap in the face to, again, veterans of the past, veterans of the present, and veterans of the future. That's where you're going with this.
Yes, that is. That's kind of exactly where I'm going with it. And, I know people are going to have different views on it. Some people are going to have no problem with what he did. And like I said, I don't have a problem with him trying to, stand up. Trying to, I guess, he's a polarizing figure. Use that for good use. I get that. I'm all for that. I'm just not all for the way he went about it.
Well, I understand that. So, I mean, no matter what, I think we both agree. I understand you agree with the free speech part. It's the part that I'm trying to get to in general with this is, again, it's the emotional investment supersedes the reality. The reality is he has a problem with whatever, and he's taken it upon himself to say, I'm not going to participate in this crowd event that really is just, we're going to play a song, and everybody's going to get in line, and we're going to all do everything at the same time, the same way. This is what I'm saying to me, and I know you're saying you have a military, family in the background history, but again, like I was mentioned earlier in the show, there's plenty of active military members I know personally, or people who've just gotten back, or older people who have served, previously, and they're just now set veterans who they have established time and history of their own experience. A lot of them will come at you with, things are not what they thought it was. Things are not what they were promised. The vision is different. They feel disrespected. How many veterans feel disrespected by the way the government treats them, but they themselves are not going to do something like, disrespect that, because to them they're active and it means something. I get it. But for the normal person who's not in that, or the person, I should say, they're normal in the military style, but for a normal person, meaning not a crazy person, not someone who hates the military, not someone who hates the veterans, just a normal person, but who just isn't in that lifestyle, to them, the flag in itself doesn't represent anything personal to them as a badge. It's supposed to represent what the country is. So it's a different way to look at it. Do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say with that?
No, yeah, I definitely understand. I think, like I said, I think a lot of it just has to kind of do with your upbringing, your background. Like I said, everyone's going to have different opinions on it, and I'm not saying anybody's opinions are wrong.
No, right. No, this is what we call a good conversation, America, where you can do this without actually trying to kill each other. So no need for that. We're good. All right, Cole. Anything else you want to add to that? Because I appreciate the call, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
You too.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as you heard it right there, again, I mean, I respect for giving his opinion, and as I said, this is the way it should be. So that was a normal conversation where two people don't have to kill each other because they're on opposing sides of this, and I feel like that version of opposing sides is less, way out here and less combative. It's pretty much, having a conversation. You're somewhere in the middle. Now, but I want to key in on the fact that he highlighted a lot of points that I had mentioned where when you have this, like I said, you look at it as disrespectful. There's always going to be, at least to me, what I've seen, what I've heard, it always has something to do with a military history in the background, a family history. And that's not a bad thing. It's just me saying psychologically, because how I'm looking at this, folks, is psychological. The psychological nature of that is, like he had mentioned, and I'm gonna play a clip in a couple seconds. What he had mentioned fits perfectly where I'm going with this, where if you look at it as your own life, you could say it's my family history. Well, you don't know my grandfather, my father's 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 father. Like we have a military history background, and that means, as he had just said, well, it depends how you're raised. You can use words like raised. You can use words like taught. You can use words like conditioned. Okay, these are all the same word. They're all how you're brought up to think the world works. If your family has this as its background and it has a certain pillars that it rests on, and one of them is a strong military, background history, it's almost near impossible to have a conversation objectively with definitely not all. Again, I have many people I know, but a certain percentage, it's like nearly impossible to have any kind of a conversation that calls anything into question because it's a pillar of their life. Now, with that being said, I wanted to go to, if one of my interns could help me out here, there was a video clip that I have ready, and I'll say to play it in 1 second. This video is gonna, in my opinion, a friend of mine had shared this on Facebook earlier, so I do apologize for this editing. This is not one of my best editing jobs. I was rushed today. But I think this exemplifies what I'm trying to say. I'm not even sure, shout out to this person, I'm not sure if this is why they shared it, but I just thought the quidinky dink was crazy, that this fits exactly, I think, what's going on here. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to watch this, let it sink in and see if how this you think applies to you. Intern, please.
To answer that question, we set up a hidden camera experiment to see if this woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beeps, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group. But what happens if we take the group away?
Elaine, please.
Okay, now she's alone. The crowd is gone and nobody is watching her except our hidden cameras. What do you think she'll do? She's now conforming to the rules of the group without them even being there. Now, watch what happens when we introduce another outsider who doesn't know the rules.
Have a seat and they'll be out in just a couple minutes. Thanks so much.
Everybody was doing it, so I thought I was supposed to.
Think she'll teach the new guy what to do? We kept the cameras rolling as more unsuspecting patients arrived. And slowly but surely, what began as a random rule for this woman has now become the social norm for everyone in this waiting room. Here to explain what's going on in their brains is Jonah Berger of the University of Pennsylvania.
This sort of internalized form of herd behavior is part of what we call social learning. Starting at a very early age, when we see members of our group perform a task, our brains literally reward us for following in their footsteps.
When I saw everybody stand up, I felt like I needed to join them. Otherwise, I'm like excluded. Once I decided to go with it, then I felt much more comfortable.
Conformity is how we become socialized, but it can also cause us to develop bad habits or repeat past wrongs.
And it's why even this rebel, who wasn't standing for any of this nonsense, eventually joined the ranks. And the only thing more shocking than seeing how easily conformity affects the way you act is that similar forces are subconsciously shaping the way you think right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, is it just me or is that a quidinky dink? That fit pretty good, right? The narrative overall, that what happens is, it's like I said, you want to call it how you were raised, you want to call it what you were taught growing up, you want to call it whatever you want. It's conditioning. You've been conditioned one way or another, okay? This applies for a lot of things. This is going to be one of those things you might catch on this show every once in a while where I decide to get deep on some stuff and going deep on this one. This is conditioning. This happens on all levels and all fronts and everything you do in life. So the national anthem at this level is just a perfect example of it, where everybody's been doing this and doing it. As you heard the caller mention, is how you've been raised. So his belief has been to bypass thinking about the moment in itself, like what it actually is, and to him it represents what he's been taught growing up, and he has that view. There's someone else who has a completely different view on the same thing growing up. It's all based on your view of what you were taught, how you were conditioned. Now, all that being said, you take away all the emotional impact on top of it, all the emotional makeup, and you're just talking about an icon. Basically, it's an icon, but you have an item, some kind of a thing, okay? It's out of all the nouns, it's a thing. You have this piece of fabric, this thing that everybody you put it up, and everything that you encompass with that emotionally is what you put on it, so that your feels, your heart and your feels are in it when you do this and you salute it, and everything you believe you put in it. Now, me, again, when I say I come from, I think, a different group of people, I'm going to say this one more time just so this is perfectly clear for anybody out there listening. There's no disrespect at all to anybody who's put in their heart into protecting what they believe is protecting this country and the people and all that. None at all. Again, no friends are perfectly fine with this. But you ultimately, when you step back and you think freely about all this and you realize what I just said, what you're worshiping, all those emotions that you put onto it, put those emotions in check. Break them down and ask what realistically is still lining up with you. Does your heart, your emotions actually still line up with the emotions that your brain is connecting to such a thing? So if whatever it might be, if this, again, you want to get into some kind of religious conversation, if it be a religious idol, if it be a national item, some kind of nationalism like this, it could be a sports team. If you have a sports team that you pledge allegiance to, okay? Whatever you're putting your emotional heart in, make sure you're analyzing the reality of it so you can put your mental part into it and see if it lines up appropriately. A couple other things I wanted to get into. That's all I'm really talking about on that. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a couple minutes left in the show. Just one other thing I wanted to touch into, speaking of emotions and hearts. And then I'm going to get into the no flex zone. We're going to end the show with that quick. But something else I want to get into the hearts of people is last week, I didn't do the show. We had some technical issue here at Fall River Comcast. So shout out to Fall River Comcast for keeping it real, keeping it grimy here. We had some technical issues, and I guess earlier today they had some too. So everybody out there watching the channel, thank you for watching. But last week, when I was going to do the show, there was something I wanted to talk about real quick that I guess last week, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker had passed a law. I forget the exact wording, but it was basically the Pet Safety Act or Pet Protection Law is what it is. And it has to do with the whole, if you have a dog in a car and you see it, okay, so you walk by, you go into the mall and there's a car there, maybe it has the window cracked, maybe it doesn't, and there's a dog inside and the heat's up to a certain amount on the whatever index, and that thing's panting and whining, and you're looking at it like, what am I gonna do? I need to save this dog's life. So you get out your trusty hammer and you smash that window. Smash, 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 all right? You hit that thing. Look at this. I don't know what's going on here in terms, I got something about my TV is going to turn off. This is craziness. I'm going to roll with it. So my TV is going to go out in a couple of seconds. But everything's going on here at once, folks. If something goes on, you know to call the authorities. So the point is, he passed a law where you can now do this and you'd get away with it. That's great. That's the positive. You get to free the puppies. But now my question to you is, when we have these people in the city who want some change out of your car, right? Or they see a couple dollars, they see a radio or something. They smash that thing. Do they now have like the perfect excuse to say, well, I thought I saw a puppy in there. I thought I saw a kitty cat in there. And now that's their excuse to go in and try to get that loot? No, so be careful. I'm going to say that. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to go in fast. We got a couple seconds if I could. Intern, we're going to the No Flex Zone Award of the Week.
No flex zone. They know better. They know better.
All right, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in the No Flex Zone. The No Flex Zone is a zone we do not belong flexing. And by flexing, I mean doing anything you're not supposed to be doing in a place you're not supposed to be doing it. This week's No Flex Zone Award winner goes out to Chris Brown, who got locked in. He's basically his own prisoner in his own place on his own free will. But while the cops are surrounding the place, he throws a duffel bag out the window with guns, drugs, everything they needed. So he's waiting for a search warrant to let him in, but he throws out all the evidence free for him. Your No Flex Zone Award winner of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. Come back next week, every Wednesday, 6 to 6:30 p.m. live. Comcast, Channel 95.